All right, let's talk about the latest drama in Canadian politics. And trust me, it's a big one. Grab your coffee because what just unfolded is one for the books. Mark Carney, a major figure in the Liberal Party and often seen as the expert on all things economic and political, just lost his cool on national TV. And why? Because Governor General Mary Simon made a statement that's shaking up the country. She showed support for Alberta and Saskatchewan's right to push back, even separate from the federal government. Yes, it's true. These two provinces are now openly preparing to assert more independence from Ottawa. And Carney, he's not having it. He's on TV, visibly frustrated, holding onto the rules like his life depends on them, saying, "That's not how this works. Let's rewind a bit." The situation escalated when Senator Mark Gold, a key voice for the federal government in the Senate, made a bold and, frankly, dismissive comment. He told the nation that no province can leave Confederation unless Parliament allows it. According to him, provinces don't have that kind of freedom. It came off as tone-deaf, especially to people in the West. He basically compared provinces to kids in daycare. They can't go anywhere unless Ottawa says it's okay. That statement did not sit well with many Canadians, especially in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Gold's message was clear. This is Ottawa's call, not the provinces. And it sounded like he was more interested in protecting the status quo than actually listening to the concerns of Western Canadians. It felt less like leadership and more like a lecture. Then he added a bit of unnecessary flair, almost mocking the idea of separation, suggesting that if a province wants out, they'll have to jump through endless bureaucratic hoops, fill out forms, get them stamped, attend countless meetings, and maybe even join some symbolic public event like an interpretive dance. But what really sparked this entire debate was a question asked by Senator Paula Simons. She simply asked whether the Clarity Act, a law that outlines how Quebec could legally separate, would also apply to other provinces. It was a fair, honest question. Not a threat, not an announcement, just a question for clarity. Still, it triggered a huge reaction. With growing talks of Western independence, many people saw her question as the beginning of something bigger. Meanwhile, Alberta's more vocal separatists are already organizing, and Premier Danielle Smith has been actively exploring what more autonomy might look like. So when Senator Gold was asked to give a straight answer, which is his responsibility, he gave a vague and almost dismissive response. He didn't explain the legal process. Instead, he said something like, "If this were a classroom, that would be a great question." Then, nothing. He avoided giving an actual answer. It was frustrating to watch. People want clarity, and instead, they got a dodgy reply that avoided the core issue. It felt like asking a mechanic how to fix your car and being told, "That's a deep question. Let's take a closer look at the Clarity Act." It was passed in 2000 after Quebec came very close to leaving Canada in 1995. The purpose of the act is to make sure any referendum question about separation is clear and direct, and that the result truly reflects the will of the people. But here's the problem. In practice, the Clarity Act gives the federal government, especially Parliament, a final say over whether a province's referendum question is acceptable. So even if a province follows all the rules, holds a vote, gathers public support, and puts together a serious proposal, Ottawa can still reject it. Imagine telling your landlord you're moving out, but they say only if your request is creative enough and we like the tone. That's how the Clarity Act often feels to Western provinces, like they're being told to jump through extra hoops just to have their voices heard. Now let's talk about Alberta. The province recently passed the Citizen Initiative Act. This new law lowers the number of signatures needed to call a referendum from around 600,000 to just 177,000. That's a huge difference, like going from needing all of Winnipeg to only needing the size of Red Deer. With this change, groups like the Alberta Prosperity Project didn't waste any time. They drafted a question that cut straight to the point. Do you agree the province should become a sovereign country and stop being a province of Canada? That's it. No complicated language, no confusing details, just a clear yes or no. This kind of direct wording stands in sharp contrast to the more careful and poetic language used in Quebec's 1995 vote. Alberta's message is clear. People want a say, and they don't want it watered down by politics. So how did Mark Carney respond? Not well. He reacted in a way that surprised a lot of people. with visible frustration and strong emotions. Carney, who has long been seen as a calm, thoughtful leader and expert in financial matters, seemed completely thrown off. His composed public image gave way to someone who looked flustered and overwhelmed, like a teacher who suddenly lost control of the classroom. His response was loud and intense, almost as if he couldn't believe what was happening. He shouted, "You can't just leave, that's not how this works." Meanwhile, while Carney was venting, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre was doing something different. He was out in Alberta and Saskatchewan, speaking with residents, listening to their concerns, and offering support. Poilievre, with a more down-to-earth style and practical message, has been telling Western Canadians that their voices matter, that they deserve respect and a real say in how the country is run. And people are responding. Many in the West feel like they've been pushed to the side. They believe they contribute a lot to the country through energy, agriculture, and natural resources, but don't get the recognition or influence they deserve. They're frustrated with how decisions are made in Ottawa without proper consultation. They see their industries regulated, their emissions tightly controlled, and their opinions often ignored. And then, when they ask for more respect or more say in federal matters, they're dismissed or criticized. This feeling has been building for a long time. The idea of Western separation isn't new, but the recent political climate, combined with policies that seem out of touch with their needs, has reignited the conversation in a big way. Now, whenever people in Western Canada even suggest the idea of separation, political leaders in Ottawa act like it's a personal attack. It's as if someone scratched their luxury car. The reaction is that intense. But let's put aside Senator Gold's careful legal wording for a moment and go back to what the Supreme Court of Canada actually said in 1998. They didn't say, provinces are permanently tied to the country with no way out. In fact, they said something quite different. If a province presents a clear question in a referendum and a clear majority of the people vote in favor of separation, then the federal government is legally obligated to enter negotiations. Not to respond with threats, not to call in police, and certainly not to punish the province, but to sit down and talk, respectfully and seriously. It's supposed to be a mature discussion between equals. That's how a functioning democracy works, not through force or fear, but through understanding and dialogue. Unfortunately, that message seems to be lost on Mark Carney and the current Liberal leadership. While many Albertans are expressing real frustration about how they're treated, raising issues like federal overreach, unfair economic decisions, and the loss of their cultural identity, Carney is acting like none of it matters. He still behaves like a central banker, removed from the everyday concerns of regular people. He speaks as though public discontent is just a minor inconvenience in his economic charts. That kind of attitude only adds fuel to the fire. But here's where things took a turn. Governor General Mary Simon stepped up and did something rare in today's political climate. She acknowledged that there's a real problem. She didn't ignore the growing tension. She didn't pretend everything was fine. She openly recognized that these provinces deserve to be heard. Her message wasn't aggressive. It was thoughtful and grounded. She said, maybe it's time to listen to these provinces instead of dismissing their concerns. That kind of leadership stands out, especially in a time when so many politicians seem more focused on control than communication. Carney, however, did not take it well. His response on live television was emotional and defensive. He launched into a heated reaction, warning about national unity and appearing visibly shaken by the Governor General's stance. It was a difficult moment to watch. Instead of trying to understand why Western Canadians are upset, Carney came across as someone trying to shut the conversation down. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre offered a completely different approach. He didn't scold anyone. He didn't quote legal rulings or brush off their concerns. He listened. He talked about why so many Canadians, especially in the West, feel overlooked and pushed aside. That's what real leadership looks like. It's about recognizing frustration and asking the hard questions. Why do people feel ignored? Why is there so much mistrust between Ottawa and the provinces? What needs to change? Canadians don't want to be told how to feel. They want someone who will hear them out and respect their right to question the system. And Pierre is tapping into that sentiment. Truthfully, the structure of Canada's federation has shown serious cracks. The West has been warning about it for years, and now that those warnings are turning into action, the political establishment in Ottawa is calling it radical or dangerous. But it's not treason to want respect. It's not a crime. To want fairness. Let's be clear. It's not disloyal to ask for fairness. It's not rebellious to say, we've had enough. What truly feels unfair is expecting provinces to keep contributing so much to the country, only to be treated like their voices don't count. Mark Carney may be stressed about what's happening, but for many Canadians, especially those in the West, this moment isn't chaos. It's clarity. It's a sign that people are finally speaking up after being ignored for too long. It's a necessary and honest conversation about how our country is run, and if Ottawa continues to push aside these concerns, this won't just be about potential referendums. It could become a deeper national issue, a crisis of identity and trust. When citizens feel like their place in the country isn't valued, things can shift quickly. So where do we go from here? That's the real question. And the answer will depend on whether our leaders choose to listen or continue to talk over the voices of Canadians asking for change. This isn't just another disagreement between Ottawa and the provinces. It feels like something bigger, a major shift in how the country sees itself. The structure of Canada, which has been heavily centralized for so long, is being questioned in ways we haven't seen in years. And while Mark Carney returns to his policy groups and think tanks still holding tightly to the old ways, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is taking a different route. He's not just giving speeches, he's meeting with people, hearing their concerns, and offering practical steps forward. He's reminding Canadians that this country belongs to its people, not to a group of unelected officials or bureaucrats. It belongs to every province, every region, and every community that works hard and wants a real say in how the country is governed. This conversation is far from over, but if anyone is in a position to help rebuild a Canada that listens and respects all voices, especially those that have felt ignored, it might be Poilievre, because he's not trying to silence the concerns. He's engaging with them. One conversation at a time, one meeting at a time, one honest answer at a time. And maybe that's what Mark Carney and others in Ottawa need to hear. Instead of delivering lectures about national unity, maybe it's time to listen, really listen, to the people who are asking to be heard. If the federal government paused for a moment to hear the voices across the prairies, they'd find that what's happening isn't disorder. It's democracy. Real democracy. Sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it's real, and it's necessary. Even the provinces that are usually the quietest are finding their voices now, and Canada will be stronger for it if we let them speak.